My Amplified Unit, welcome to a very special impromptu video. The review and reaction of NXT TakeOver 2019. Yes, I'm a little biased. I was there live, feeling the goosebumps from match 1 all the way to the main event with Gargano and Adam Cole. But this is an event that deserved a review video anyway, even if I was sitting in the comfort of my own home, on my own couch. This would have probably had me on my feet from the opening bell to the end bell. That's how exciting this was. That's how many times I had the old goosebumps underneath the leather jacket. This was an event that once again had us all collectively as professional wrestling fans saying, "What the fuck? They did it again." They found a way to have complete, flawless perfection. From top to bottom, beginning to end, start to finish. From the War Raiders versus Ricochet and Black for the NXT tag straps, to the vacant NXT championship with Gargano and Adam Cole and everything in between. 5 matches managed to captivate us from beginning to end again. There was no match that was a piss break. There was no match where you could get up and make your peanut butter and fluff sandwich. There was no match where you could get up out of your seat and go to the concession stand to get another beer. There was no match to go out and smoke a cigarette. There was no match to call your loved one and say, "Hey, wanna Netflix and chill tomorrow?" Nothing. You were captivated from minute 1 to the final minute. And if you weren't, check the old pulse. Or we should take back your pro wrestling fandom card because you shouldn't own one. Now, as much praise as I'm about to give this show, as I usually do with NXT, I have to follow this up, or should I say, disclose this up front. As I always seem to do, because I know I'm going to get all the comments saying this is what WWE should be and needs to be. And while I fully agree with you in part, you also have to know how the business is ran. I understand business-wise, WWE's main roster can never be this good ever again, unless they were to go back to like the Superstars of Wrestling back in the late 80s and 90s, the 1-hour show format. Because you could do so much with NXT that the main roster is incapable of doing, just from a business standpoint. And what I mean, guys, is NXT is a 1-hour weekly show on the network, taped all the time. So you could do so much more with your stories. On top of that, their pay-per-views are once every several months, and it's only 5 matches. Well, if you remember when WWE was really good, and I'm talking about even before the Attitude Era, it was when they only really had a 1-hour show called Superstars of Wrestling, and they only had 4 pay-per-views a year. This is even before King of the Ring. I'm talking about the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. So your stories were simplistic and they were given the time of day. They were given intense focus and immense detail. And at the pay-per-views, you only had that 7 to 10 epic matches. It was great. Well, now NXT has that 1-hour weekly tape show. They pay attention and give focus to those storylines. And at the pay-per-views, which again, is only every other fucking month, maybe every 3 months. Well then, guys, you're going to have 5 matches at that point. So it's a lot less that they have to give focus to and pay attention in detail to. NXT can get away with a lot more. On the main roster, you have a 3-hour live weekly television show, followed by a 2-hour live weekly television show. You have to appease and please and accommodate hundreds of advertisers. These are all things that NXT doesn't have to do. Trust me, I'm not letting the main roster off the hook. If you've ever watched these videos and you're a faithful subscriber to this channel, you know I do the opposite. I call them out on all the bullshit, perhaps more intense than anyone else on this platform. But I have to. I gotta keep it real. But, that being said, just because you can't do exactly what NXT is doing, because you have so many more hours of television, because you're live, because you have to appease all these different advertisers, and more importantly, you have to appease a lot more different demographics from every different age range, whereas the network is a little bit more suited to specific fan bases. And you guys know what I mean if you were there live in Brooklyn last night. But you just look at their crowds wherever NXT goes, and you understand it's not necessarily for the youngest crowds. Where WWE has to appease a lot more. Again, I'm not letting them off the hook. This is business 101, guys. I would love to join you. Are you kidding me? I would love to just be like, this is what WWE needs to be. NXT is where it's at. I would love to. But I know the business means that they'll never be that way again unless they start making the necessary changes. And by changes, I mean maybe they do have to cut down from 3 hours to 2 hours on their Monday Night Raws. If you can't handle the third hour, maybe you shouldn't have it. And trust me, I'm one of those fans that will take more and more wrestling. Give me more hours. But just make it damn good. I'm not even asking for epic at this point. Not even great. Give me good content. If you can't handle the third hour, then we are going to have to take that back. When I say necessary changes, I mean maybe less pay-per-views a year. Maybe that's what made it special back in the day. There's no maybe. That is what made it special. There was only 4 pay-per-views. They added the King of the Ring, and I said, all right. And then they started adding everything else. 3 other in-your-house pay-per-views every year. Then those turned into Vengeance and Backlash and Money in the Bank and Battleground. I don't even fucking know. There's a pay-per-view every month, sometimes 2 now. And what happened was slowly but surely, the train started going off the tracks. And the company started getting bigger and bigger. And financially, that's what you want if you're inside the company. But for the fans, it wasn't getting better. It was getting worse. NXT comes along. You see that simplistic formula that WWE used to have. 1 hour weekly tape television show. Just a handful of matches to pay attention to. When the pay-per-view comes around, every one of us gives a shit. Again, we would love that same model on the main roster. It's just right now, business-wise, there is no way that is possible unless WWE starts making those changes. But what that would mean, guys, this is the truth, that would mean they were going to lose a lot of money. So Vince McMahon will never go to the NXT model. But that's fine. Everybody says this is what WWE should be and needs to be. And why can't they do that? Why can't NXT just be itself? This is what we love about NXT. It's original. It's clear that WWE's main roster will never be this way. So let's just be grateful we have this. Because what we were a part of last night, whether you were in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center or sitting at home, what we were all experienced and what we were all a part of was something beautiful. That is what we love about pro wrestling. That atmosphere. Characters that we care about. Wrestling that was fucking dynamite. Not all just glorified gymnastics, as sometimes we like to associate with some of these stars. Some of the matches, yes, you had some of that no-selling, pillar to post, flying all over the place, and 10 suicide dive type action. Yes, but NXT once again delivered last night. Over-delivered. More than met expectations. And, man, I just can't speak so highly of it. Let's just jump right into it, man. Let's jump right over, right? We set this thing up long enough. Now let's get into match number 1. This was the War Raiders versus Ricochet and Aleister Black for the tag team straps. And Ricochet and Black, let me just say this, and this will probably upset some people, but that's all right. I'm the fucking, the bad guy, the asshole, the boogeyman on YouTube when it comes to pro wrestling, so I don't care. This is going to be the truth. Ricochet and Black belong in NXT. It's just where they fit. It's where they're larger than life. Sometimes it's okay to be the bigger fish in a small pond. Because in WWE's main roster, Black and Ricochet just look like really small fish in a big pond. They're just not clicking. And maybe it's because I just don't want to see them together, because Aleister Black should not be in a tag team. It doesn't complement his character, which is supposed to be way more badass than that. Ricochet needs to be showcasing his skills, talents, and who he is and what he is on his own. By just throwing him in this random weird tag team on every show, every Raw, every SmackDown, every pay-per-view, we use the term forced a little bit too much in pro wrestling, but that's seeming really forced to me. Like, why are these two guys on every show? Why are they stuck in a tag team, attached at the hip like two peas in the pod? When anybody who followed NXT knows, they're individuals. They got their claim to fame, and the reason we love them is because of what they did as individuals. Let's break them up. But you saw from that reaction, it wasn't just a TakeOver Brooklyn reaction. That's the type of feeling and emotion that we give Ricochet and Aleister Black in NXT. That's not the same emotion that translates to the main roster, and we see that all the time. With so many of their superstars that transition from NXT to the main roster. Now, yes, you can blame that on Vince just not using them correctly. You can blame them on creative not being creative. You can blame it on the format and the stale nature of the main roster, Raw and SmackDown. You could blame it on all of that, and you'd be correct. But sometimes people are just better suited for one thing more so than the other. Aleister Black and Ricochet, it's like they were created for a program, for an entity, for an organization like NXT. Way more than the main roster. That's the sad truth, guys. But just like we were all chanting in the Barclays Center, you deserve it, there's no doubt they deserve a shot on the main roster. And they might actually even do good, but will they thrive remains to be seen. The way they're doing it now, they're not going to captivate all the demographics. They're not going to take in the diehards with the casuals and then the mainstream media fans. They're not going to get everybody the way they're using Ricochet and Black on the main roster right now. So they're going to have to get much more creative. But the way they're doing them in NXT, it's brilliant. You know, and what we saw last night, their journey in NXT has officially come to an end. So we just hope that Vince McMahon will use them properly, you know, or will they be used like an Apollo Crews, a Shinsuke Nakamura, a Bobby Roode, you know, former NXT champions that are really in obscurity right now. This is where I see Aleister Black and Ricochet heading in the future if Vince just gets bored with them, or they don't have anything for them, or this is my biggest fear, they just don't know how to use them. Anyway, I'm going on a side rant there. The match itself, War Raiders versus Ricochet and Black. I took some notes on this, man, as I'm viewing this. And as everybody's going ballistic around me, I was paying close attention and focus and detail on this match. And let me tell you guys, Hansen is a freak of nature. He just is. No big man that size should be able to break the laws of gravity the way that Hansen does. This guy was flying around as if he's a cruiserweight. There's got to be some law against that shit. I mean, he's doing moonsaults. I'm not going to be surprised in the future if he's doing corkscrew moonsaults, corkscrew fucking hurricanranas. Who the fuck knows what this guy's going to attempt or create? Hansen just blows me away more and more every time I see this guy. The match itself was obviously great. Man, do I say great? It was actually for a tag team match again with two guys the size of Hansen and Rowe. That's in itself fucking a special feat. So I will give it great match status. I will say not enough selling. Obviously, it's NXT. We expect a lot less selling on NXT takeovers than the main roster. Main roster is a lot more psychology. NXT takeovers, it's a lot more about showcasing the fast-paced, move-for-move, dare I say, glorified gymnastics at times. But that's what NXT is more known for. You saw that even in this tag match. Even with guys like Rowe and Hansen, you saw the War Raiders keeping pace with Ricochet and Black. And at times, going at a faster pace. So even though there was not enough selling, it was pretty great, this tag match. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. We were all going ballistic in the Barclays Center. I know you guys must have enjoyed it at home. Reading what I read when I got back to the El Cribbo, you guys definitely enjoyed the whole pay-per-view, special event. So this was one of the matches you guys were definitely talking about. The War Raiders retained their straps when this was all said and done. I think this was, this was the right decision, because when it was all said and done, Black and Ricochet were saying goodbye to NXT, and that's what they did. War Raiders gave them an ultimate sign of respect, pretty much bowed down to them, and then they left the ring, and Ricochet and Black were there to say goodbye to the NXT universe. All of us in Barclays showed them the most immense respect you could possibly show two people. We gave them a huge "you deserve it" chant, and you guys know, if you follow this channel, I don't do the "you deserve it." I can't stand that, because I think we say that too much. But you could catch me a couple times during that chant, scream it out with everyone else in unison, "You deserve it." Because these two guys busted their ass to get where they're going, where they already are, if you think about it. I just really hold those reservations, man. I really can't give Vince McMahon full credit or the benefit of the doubt that he's going to use them correctly. And that's a shame, because I don't want them to turn out to be an Apollo or a Shinsuke or a Bobby Roode or an Ember Moon or an Asuka. I don't want them to be misused, and it's because Vince doesn't know how to use talents like this. But we showed them the ultimate sign of respect on the way out. I hope that translated on your TV sets, because we really were digging it, man. It was such an emotional moment. You had goosebumps. You almost wanted to shed a tear, like I know Ricochet was doing, and Aleister Black. There was a great photo on the ride back to the El Cribbo. Everybody was posting on social media, and Triple H posted a great shot. I think it was Triple H, or sent to me, something where Triple H was hugging Ricochet and Aleister, and it looked like Ricochet and Aleister Black were his kids. They were like in tears in Triple H's shoulders, and Triple H is consoling them. It was such an emotional photo, and it really spoke volumes of the emotional moment that really was. And again, guys, that was all just the first match. We then went into a really fun match. This is one of my favorite superstars in pro wrestling today. The Velveteen Dream taking on Matt Riddle. My notes on this one, guys, are simple. Matt Riddle has absolutely won me over. If you follow this channel faithfully, you guys know I wasn't completely sold on Matt Riddle, and I didn't know because of his past extracurricular marijuana use. I didn't know if he was gonna last, drug test wise. But this guy, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, by the way, with that, but this guy has won me over. He totally has showed that he thrives in this type of atmosphere. He totally has shown me that if ever called up and needed to be in a big spot on the main roster, this guy can deliver, whether it's one show or 100 or beyond. So Matt Riddle has won me over. That's the first thing I'll go over in this match. Second thing, the Velveteen Dream character is beyond larger than life. I know I say that every time I do an NXT review video, but I have to reiterate that. The Velveteen Dream is beyond larger than life status. This guy is just, he's the real deal when it comes to pro wrestling and everything we love about it. All the pageantry, all the glitz, all the glamour, all the entertainment. And then the guy can go in the ring and back it up with the young bucks of today. And I know he could put on a classic with the 50, 60-year-old legends from yesterday. That's how good this guy is. He can adapt and adjust with the best of them, or the worst of them. That's the Velveteen Dream. The match itself, guys, this was solid from top to bottom. I love how the Velveteen Dream hulked up at the end there and paid homage to the Macho Man with the double axe handle from the ring apron. That was homage, obviously, to the Macho Man. And if you want to talk homage to the Macho Man, how about his entrance when he came out like the Macho King used to come out? Remember that whole WrestleMania 7? He came out as the king, man, and he was being hoisted up. that's the Macho Man, the Macho King that we loved. And for the Velveteen Dream to pay that type of homage, that's, man, that brought me back to those WrestleMania 7 days when Macho Man was being hoisted up. He was the Macho King at the time, and he had all his henchmen, and he was in his king's throne, and he was being escorted to the ring, hoisted to the ring. Ah, man, I just, seeing that, it just brings you back to what made you fall in love with this business, this company, when I was a kid. And it still drives that emotions today. You just gotta put in the work, get creative. That's where I feel Vince McMahon, even though he can't follow the same model of NXT, you can steal or at least remember bits and pieces that'll make your product better. The storytelling. How pay-per-view matches should come about. This is shit Vince can still do no matter what the advertisers are or who they are. No matter what the demographic is. No matter how many hours of shows you're producing a week. These are things you can do to help your show again, and he's not doing it. Anyway, I don't want to go back into the frustrations of the main roster. I want to keep the good vibes going. And the Velveteen Dream and Matt Riddle, man, this was, again, solid. And from top to bottom, a solid match. But the final 5 minutes were a classic. That turned into a classic, guys. Move for move, I didn't know who was getting this win. And that's when you know they have us in the palm of their hands. That's when you know they're telling the story perfectly. This wasn't just a bunch of no selling. This was fast-paced, but this was with a story of telling you they're getting their shit kicked out of them. Their facial expressions were telling you they don't know what's left to do. What left do I have to do? What left do I have in the tank? I don't know what more I can do, and I don't know how much more I have left. That's what they were both telling you with 5 minutes to go, and that's when shit really picked up and became a classic. I have other matches to go on, guys, and I want to save my voice for the WrestleMania review show on Monday morning, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So I want to keep going on, but I just want to say that I could not be more prouder of Matt Riddle and Velveteen Dream last night. When it was all said and done, Velveteen Dream rolled up Matt Riddle out of the submission, and Velveteen Dream keeps his North American Championship. But Matt Riddle with an ultimate sign of respect. He puts out his fist in the fist bump, and Velveteen Dream goes to walk away, turns around and goes, all right. And they do the fist bump, and Matt Riddle walks off, and Velveteen Dream celebrates as he should be. The only downside to this is that I won't be able to see Velveteen Dream up on the main roster. I was really hoping for a call-up on Monday for Velveteen Dream, because he's ready, guys. We talk about Vince not knowing what to do with certain talents or talents being misused from NXT to WWE, but with Velveteen Dream, you can't possibly fuck that up, can you? Then again, it is Vince, so I don't know. Dare I say, right? But Velveteen Dream is the type of cat that no matter what you give him, he's going to turn to gold, and he's gonna win you over and go over organically, no matter what Vince does. So I was really hoping for a call-up, but either way, Velveteen Dream with a huge, massive win keeps his championship, and he'll keep rocking the NXT crowds for days, weeks, and months to come, at least. Third match, guys, we're talking the UK Championship over here. We're talking about a guy who's had, a 2-year run, basically, and Pete Dunn, and he was taking on an old school cat like Walter. This was a match that, on paper, we all thought it was going to deliver. But none of us could ever have imagined or expected it delivering to the point that it did last night. Because let me tell you, this motherfucker delivered way beyond what we thought it was going to. Pete Dunn and Walter last night, guys. The longer this match went, the more captivated I became. More and more, I was thinking, shit, this is one of those fight forever type scenarios. Screw it. Dunn's 2-year UK title reign was ended at the hands of Walter, and I love this, guys. I really do. Walter, again, as I said, is old school. So this cat really personifies what I envision that UK title being and what it should be. That old school, badass, brute type mentality. The same thing that Pete Dunn, when he had that championship, that is what it pretty much portrayed. Walter is going to carry that on. It was time for Pete Dunn to move on, whatever that may be, or maybe that is just another rematch with Walter first and then he moves on. But it was definitely time for Pete Dunn to move on. And let's have somebody else showcase that strap into the next several months and maybe even year. Walter is the guy to do that. Because he's going to keep it real as Pete Dunn did. He's going to keep that same message of brutality, old school, badass, everything you would think a title in the UK would be. Prestige. Walter's going to carry that, guys. And Walter's badass. He can go with a guy like Pete Dunne. You could put Walter in there with a guy like Braun Strowman. And Walter's going to deliver. I know at first take, man, for a casual fan, you see somebody like Walter and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to take a nap during this match. But no, this guy shows you that he can captivate you. And what him and Pete Dunne did last night, and I heard a lot of people saying, because they didn't know a lot about these two. So they said on paper that that's going to be kind of the snooze match. You know what I mean? And that's the match there. I assure you, I saw people like that in Brooklyn last night at the Barclays Center. A lot of people were like, who? What? Okay. But when it was all said and done, let me tell you something. They were on their chairs, not just on their toes, on their feet, man. They were on their chairs, jumping up and down on that one. Because that was fun. It really was. So congrats to Pete Dunne and Walter, man. And again, as I already let the cat out of the bag, Walter actually took the title from Pete Dunne in Pete Dunne's 2-year title reign. You talk about emotions. This is another one of those emotions, another one of those matches that really, drive that feeling and emotion out of the crowd. And 2 years of a title reign, man, gone. And Walter is a much, much deserved. I know some people like, Walter, of all people? No, guys, trust me. Do your research. Walter is more than deserving of ending Pete Dunne's title reign and going on into the future with that championship. He's going to make a lot more than just the UK crowds thrilled. Trust me. He's going to captivate a lot of people around the world, if he hasn't already. I do want to move on, guys, to the fourth match. This is right before the main event. This is for the NXT Women's Championship. This is Kairi Sane, the challenger, taking on Io Shirai, the challenger, taking on Bianca Belair, the challenger, taking on champion Shayna Baszler. My notes on this, I just want to give a little tidbit note on each one of these individuals. Kairi Sane is a Spitfire who is not afraid of anyone. Bottom line, she is so tiny, and yet she will go up against anybody with no reservation, no hesitation. She will just start throwing bows at you. Kairi Sane is the real deal through and through. On top of that, you have Io Shirai, who is so fast, so ferocious, with probably the quickest moonsault I've ever seen in this business. She runs up to that middle rope, and you hope it all goes according to plan, because the second her foot hits the middle rope, she's instantly already done with her moonsault. I've never seen anything like this. And she lands it. She hits it nearly 100% of the time. Fast, ferocious, Io Shirai mixed up with Kairi Sane, and they're a devastating duo, let me tell you. On top of that, you got Bianca Belair, who is so strong as fuck, with a great new heel persona. And what I mean by that, because she actually started off kind of heelish when she really first got to the Performance Center, guys. And then she kind of went into a little fan favorite type time in her NXT career. But now she really tapped into this new version of her. And I think it's even new to her. Like, there's this new confidence in Bianca Belair that I didn't even see in her last TakeOver match with Shayna Baszler for the title. This is a new Bianca Belair. It's a new confidence. It's almost like I'm telling you guys about The Miz. It's almost like The Miz found something new within himself. And this is the best I've seen of him. And the Usos. This is the best Usos I've seen. And they've been around for 10 years around, right? Roughly. And it's the same with Bianca Belair. Even though she's still younger and she's in NXT, this is leaps and bounds a different, more confident Bianca Belair than just a month or 2, 3 months ago. And that is awesome to see. In her strength, when you're talking to females especially, you could argue second to none. Definitely up there with Baszler. And my note on Baszler is obviously she just continues to dominate the entire NXT roster. Because when this was all said and done, which was a pretty decent match, I'm not going to go overboard and call it good, but it was absolutely decent from top to bottom. There was just a lot of spots that they had to set up for, and it made it a little sloppy at times, but I'm not going to nitpick. This was absolutely a decent match, and at times, without question, even good. But when it was all said and done, Baszler once again defeats Bianca Belair. That was the finish. It was interesting they decided to do that. It's really like they're trying to protect Kairi Sane and Io Shirai at all costs. Because they actually had Bianca Belair take another TakeOver loss, second in a row, in the same way, with Shayna Baszler in her submission. Now, last time Bianca Belair, if you guys remember, she passed out. So they tried to protect Bianca Belair. And they just had her pass out. Made her look real badass. Yet at this TakeOver, they had her actually tap out in about 10 seconds. So that's a tale of two tapes. Even though I'm telling you guys she looked more confident, more dominant, more stronger, just better. WWE's booking, or NXT's booking I should say, had her look a little weaker. And they actually had her tap out to Shayna Baszler. Again, if you guys watched the last TakeOver, she passed out. I just thought that was interesting, man. I was there kind of like shocked that they went with that ending. Obviously, you guys know I'm a huge part of the Asian invasion. I love Io Shirai. I love Kairi Sane. You guys know I'm huge on Asuka. Huge on Shinsuke. So it sucked that Io and or Kairi didn't get the title. They're obviously more than deserving. I hate that word, but they are. And I thought Shayna Baszler, she was going to get called up. They decided not to do that. Shayna Baszler keeps her championship, and maybe this means either Io or Kairi will be called up, man. I would love to see that. Or would we? Look how they're using Asuka. Would they even do anything on the main roster? Maybe it's safe to say we all want them to stay in NXT and just continue to thrive. That's sad to say, man. That we don't even want to see some of these superstars go to the main roster because they might get destroyed. Forget misused. Not even used. Anyway, definitely decent match, man. A shock ending for me because I did not expect Baszler to A, win that match, and B, in that fashion. Main event. Johnny Gargano took on Adam Cole. Baby! For the vacant NXT Championship. My notes here are simple. Gargano is the best seller in this new era of the non-selling wrestler. BC, what the hell do you mean by that? Well, you guys know we're in this era of pro wrestling today where it's a lot more about not selling because you have to keep up a fast-paced, way of your moveset. And it's what it's doing, guys, is it's making the selling kind of go away into obscurity. Because this new fast-paced way of putting on your matches means that the psychology in the selling has to take a back seat because you have to make room and set up for the spots. You have to make room for the glorified gymnastics. And by doing that, you're severely damaging the sport that we love. You're damaging the selling. That's such a key aspect. But with Gargano, at least, he's selling in his facial expressions at all times. That's why I say he's the best seller in this new non-selling era of pro wrestlers. Because whether it's the first minute of the match or the 45th minute of the match, whether he's on offense or he's on defense selling, his facial expression is like he is in or has been through a war at all times. I love that. You look in this guy's face after 5 minutes, and you honestly think he doesn't have a clue where he is. He's knocked out, on his feet or down on the mat. I love that about Gargano, because let me tell you guys, it's that type of facial expressions and mannerisms that helps captivate us to the individual. Those are the details a lot of fans might not look into, but the Amplified Man does. Facial expressions and mannerisms mean so much when you're talking about fans identifying and being captivated by a character. And Gargano is the type of person to do that. Daniel Bryan-esque. So, big props for Gargano just for being Gargano. And it's phenomenal the way he goes about his business. As far as Adam Cole, not only did he prove that he was a suitable replacement for Tommaso Ciampa last night, but he proved that he could have been in that position from the very beginning. Because that's how good Adam Cole is. Again, would he thrive on the main roster with Vince? Maybe not. Probably not. But in NXT, this guy is showcasing and showing the world why he is in and was put in that position last night. A replacement for an injured Tommaso Ciampa. And everyone said, why Adam Cole? I could think of a few people that would be better. A few people more deserving. Really? Because after last night, are you still singing that tune? Because Adam Cole, baby, was absolutely amazing last night, as was Gargano. In that match, guys, the match was not just good. In the final 10 minutes, that match turned to great. Literally, ebbs and flows that had me on the edge of my seat and almost about to jump up and down like I'm a 12-year-old kid at a WrestleMania again. Or seeing Stone Cold come out in a beer truck. I mean, it brought that type of fan out of me again. Like, what we're witnessing is fucking epic! Even with interference from the rest of the Undisputed Era, guys, Gargano survived 746 false finishes, near finishes. I swear to you, there was like 746 near finishes that Gargano kicked out of. And a few of them was because of interference from the Undisputed Era, and Gargano kept finding a way to defy the odds. Almost, I'm not gonna lie, almost in unrealistic fashion. But they took it to the line. I don't feel they crossed it. And Gargano was able to overcome all of it and defeat Adam Cole, baby! And become the new NXT champion of this very fucking world. Johnny Gargano, man, in a match that just had Brooklyn rocking. I know you were probably bouncing up and down off your couch or on your bed or on where the fuck you were watching, in the bar room, on your bar stool, you're fucking throwing that shit. That is how you put on a main event match. When it was all said and done, Candice LeRae, obviously the wife of Johnny Gargano, almost tackled him in the ring. They go up the rampway celebrating, and Tommaso Ciampa comes out of nowhere and congratulates Johnny Gargano, and they all share an epic moment up at the staging area. We're all giving them the ultimate. I don't know where it cut off for people at home. I don't know if you guys actually saw Tommaso Ciampa or not, actually, so I might be just spoiling that. After the match, Tommaso Ciampa did come out, guys, and congratulate. That could have been something that was left off the pay-per-view. If it was on the pay-per-view, that's probably where it cut off. But trust me, Brooklyn was showing them the ultimate sign of respect, I assure you. I don't know how it came across. But we were loving that, guys, because we know how much respect they should be getting and how much we wanted to give them. Tommaso, for what he just went through with that surgery, that's very serious. And obviously Gargano, in the path, the journey he took to get to where he got last night and obtaining that title and sharing that emotion with your significant other and Candice LeRae and your best friend when it's all said and done, no matter what you've been through. Tommaso Ciampa. Man, that moment was epic, guys. So, again, if it was left off the pay-per-view special, go back and watch it, guys, because it's I'm sure it's online by now. And that was TakeOver New York 2019. This was a last-minute thing for me. I'm so glad that I was able to experience this. What can you say about takeovers? They did it again. They fucking did it again. Every time they put on a takeover, it's flawless. It's perfection. Not one match is a sleeper match. Or one that we just want to fucking snooze away, or go get the bologna sandwich, or go up and get a beer at the concession stand, or go smoke a cigarette, or take a fucking nap, who knows? Not one match. You're captivated from the top to the bottom of the show, beginning to end, start to finish. That's all you can ask for in a pay-per-view show. Just epic. So instead of saying, complaining this morning, guys, like we always do after a takeover, this is what WWE's main roster should be. This is what should be happening. Vince, what the fuck? Instead of that, let's be happy that we have NXT and that it is different. And it is something we can love, right? Because again, guys, unless Vince changes his whole business model, and what that means is he's going to lose a lot of money, but unless he does that, you're never going to get what you're seeing in NXT. We can only hope that he starts stealing the things that he can deliver, though, with the advertisers, with the demographics, with all the live weekly hours on the television shows. And what you can steal is creating larger-than-life superstars. That's what NXT is doing. That Vince, you have no excuse why you're not giving us good storylines. Vince, you have no excuse why you're not cutting down pay-per-views. Again, that means losing money. So I don't think Vince is going to do that. And that, guys, that is where these pay-per-views become less interesting because there's so many. Whereas takeovers, they're interesting because they're being built up for months. So these matches have meaning. That's what I mean when I tell you guys, you got to think about the business model that Vince is in, and it's all about making money for him. For the fans, that's not so good because we're getting a lackluster, stale product. That's why NXT is thriving. They don't have to deal with all that shit. They're doing business correctly, but Vince is making all the money. And if you're in business, isn't it about making money? I know, this sucks for all of us. Because you know the logic is Vince is making a shitload of money. So we can't just sit here and go, what the fuck? When Vince is the business guy making all the money. But as a fan, we're saying this shit sucks. We can't win. Or can we? At least we have NXT. And at least we got to have those feelings and emotions like we had last night. We'll go on to WrestleMania tomorrow night, and we'll see what they deliver, man. I obviously, you're going to get that was your WrestleMania, right? People love saying that. NXT TakeOver was WrestleMania. I don't know what we're going to see tomorrow. Maybe you're right in terms of action. Who knows? But the actual WrestleMania, guys, whether you like it or not, whether it's boring or exciting as fuck, the actual WrestleMania is tomorrow night. Let's not be stupid and start saying stupid shit. Tomorrow night is WrestleMania. We all are going to collectively hope it's great and brace ourselves if it's not. Amplified Man! Hopefully you guys enjoyed NXT TakeOver. If you did not catch it, find a way to watch it. You are going to remember why you fell in love with pro wrestling from day one after you see this thing. I assure you. I am not... Mitch, what do you say? Mitch is saying check it out, guys. He's fucking... Look, he's still fucking rocking. He's fucking pumped. Anger was so fucking pumped with that show. He wasn't even that angry last night. I don't want to blow up his spot, but I looked over at one point. I could have sworn Anger... Yeah, of course I brought him to the show. You think I'm going to leave Anger? He'd be pissed. I looked over, and Anger might have had a little bit of a smile on his face. I don't know. I don't want to blow up his spot. Amplified Man, guys. Much love, respect. I'll see you guys tomorrow. It's WrestleMania weekend. Obviously, I'm going to have another video beforehand, impromptu style, before WrestleMania. So stay subscribed, stay notified, and we'll rock out another one tomorrow. For now, guys, the Amplified Man saying, check you!